So let's continue with the Guru and the disciple. Today we'll take a look at the Namdan, or the gift of the divine word. So we see that one of the most significant roles of the Guru is to give the gift of name or the divine word to the disciple. So as we know, Nam refers to the name, Dan is gift. And therefore, the name of God is considered as a key to spiritual liberation. So meditating on the name is one of the ways to attain spiritual liberation. And we all know that Nam Japa is the meditation or reciting So we see that the Guru's role here is to he has to teach the disciple how to remember and meditate on God's name continuously. Now through this Namdan, through this gift of the divine word, we see that the disciple gets the ability to connect to the divine. And therefore, this helps to purify the mind, gives inner peace, and also realize the divine presence. So when we speak about the name of God, it is not just a word. It is seen as a spiritual force that in a way empowers the disciple, empowers the one who recites it, who meditates on it, in order to transcend the ego and become one with the divine. Okay, so in a way you transcend your ego, you transcend your selfishness and become one, experience oneness with God. We see now Vaheguru, Sadguru, as we have seen. So they last time we heard the hymn. So there you are there meditating, or in a way reflecting on each aspect of the Ikonkar. So in this way we see, by just reciting the name or meditating on the name, you in a way, it just as we have the same practice, right? So it gives a kind of a spiritual boost which helps the person to purify the mind, get inner peace, and also connect with the divine. So then you have the role of the saints in Sikhism. Now we see that, as we all know, the line of human gurus ends after the 10th guru. Okay, that is Guru Gobind Singh. Now we see that there are also some living spiritual leaders or teachers who are called as sons, okay, or saints if you may call them in English. So these sons now are in a way those who have in a way made the teachings of the Guru their very own. So they have embodied the teachings of the Guru. So it is like though the Guru's teachings were given many years ago, through their life, through their practice, it is very visibly seen. Now they also are known for their spiritual insight, and we see that they are also followed by many. Either disciples or people. Why? To grow spiritually. Now it is very important to notice or understand that these sons or the saints do not replace the Guru Granth Sahib. They do not replace the eternal Guru. Just as in Christianity also, we have the saints who are there, they don't replace God. Okay? In this way, same way, these spiritual teachers here do not replace the Guru Granth Sahib. And for many Sikhs, this son is more of a mentor. Okay, somebody who can give so personalized advice, and at the same time can give moral support during the challenges or difficulties in life. Then next you have the recitation of the name, which we have. Yeah, in the sense, no, I didn't get your question. Living saints in the sense? No, these are when they're living. So in the way they are kind of teachers, or what we would, I think the best way we can equate them is the preachers that we have, or these charismatic guys, kind of, in that sense. Or even, priest you can say, but then you should not confuse with the other. So these are basically kind of ones who are like exemplary in the sense. So through their life, through their actions, the teachings of the Guru are very visible. Now we see that when we speak about the name, one of the most important aspect is, so in Sikhism you have something called as the Nama Marga. That is the path of Nam, or because this speaks about the continuous remembrance of God by reciting His name. Now, what is the significance as we have seen, it helps to purify the mind of all thoughts, bad intentions, okay, evil desires, etc. It also helps to overcome the ego. Now, this ego plays a very important role because it blocks or it acts as a barrier between you and God. So, therefore, in Sikhism, overcoming the ego is seen as something that is very important, and also to achieve spiritual enlightenment. It also helps to clean the soul of sin and ignorance. So, as we have seen that this repeating or reciting the name in a way connects the individual to the divine, and it leads to self realization and liberation or moksha from the samsara, that is a cycle of birth, death, rebirth. Now we see that cleansing the soul of sin is also another important aspect, just as we have conquering the ego. Okay, so in Sikhism, they say that the human mind, okay, is affected by 5 main vices. Now, yesterday we saw some of them, right? Which were they? The vices that affect the human mind. Lust, that is good. Then greed is there. Then you have anger. Then attachment. And finally you have pride or ego. Now what happens is, these in a way focus more on the self-centeredness. So because we see that these vices are in a way rooted in the ego, which in Sikhism is called as humai, which is self-centeredness. Now as I said, this ego creates a barrier. Okay, so this ego creates a barrier between you and God. And as a result of it, it prevents spiritual growth and enlightenment. So the continuous reciting of the name helps in a way to overcome this ego, to conquer the ego, and it shifts the focus away from the self. So the focus is now not on yourself, but focus is on God. And in this way, it also helps to tame the ego. So you are in control of yourself. It is not your ego that is leading your actions, but you are consciously aware of what you are doing and why you are doing certain things. So by this, you become less attached to the worldly desires and you are more focused on the spiritual truths. Now we see that through Nam or through reciting of the name, the person or the ego which is there becomes a tool for spiritual progress. It helps the person to overcome all lust, greed, anger, attachment and pride. Once you have conquered the ego, so once you have shifted your focus from yourself to the divine, that means you are in control of yourself now. So in a way you are not affected by lust, you are not affected by greed, anger, or you are not attached to anything, and even there is no element of pride in you. So in that way you are able to then establish that contact with the divine. Now when we meditate, what happens to us? Okay, so we face distractions. Apart from that, what else happens? Do you all practice meditation? Okay. Okay. Even in the sometimes that you all practice, what happens during the meditation? Okay, one by one. So some said distractions, then okay, thoughts, aware, okay. Somebody said sleep, concentration, okay, relaxation, peace, then calm and serene, okay. That will relaxation, we can put it there. Okay, so we see that when we meditate, we either get distracted or sometimes we begin to think about something, what we will do in the future or what we have done previously. Okay, then sometimes we also, if we are in a good mood, we become aware, because when you are still, you are able to hear the sound of the fan, maybe some insects outside, birds chirping, so your senses are heightened. Sometimes if you are tired, you also fall asleep, and also sometimes you are able to concentrate. For some it is also a relaxation. Now we see that, as you have rightly said, in daily life the mind is distracted. Why? Because there are so many things that you are expected to do and you have the stress whether how to do it and will it be done or will it not be done. So there's always this kind of distractions. You have these concerns, desires and anxieties. Now in Sikhism, this wandering mind, okay, so what do we understand by wandering mind? Not stable. That means in the sense you are thinking here, there. So even if you are in the class, you are physically in the class but mentally somewhere else. Okay, so in this way, for Sikhism, this wandering mind, okay, this unstable mind is an obstacle for spiritual progress. Why? Because can anyone tell why do you think that the wandering mind is an obstacle? Why doesn't it allow you to progress spiritually? What could be the reason? Okay, there is no focus. Anything else? Okay, not in the present. Good. Okay, so in a way you are thinking of fantasies or kind of desires. Now, okay, so recitation becomes meaningless if the mind is wandering. Okay, now all that what you have said is related to kind of being trapped in the material world. So this wandering mind will in a way trap you in the material world by keeping you focused on your desires, by keeping you focused on your concerns, what am I supposed to do, anxieties, etc. And as a result of it, you are disconnected from the divine presence. So this Nam Japa helps to quieten the mind plus to give focus. And therefore we see that gradually the mind becomes peaceful. And therefore this peaceful stillness is called as Divya Drishti. So this is a heightened state of awareness in which you become aware of yourself, aware of the presence, okay, and in a way you are able to get inner peace. Okay, so now next is something called as the opening of the Dasam Dwar or the 10th gate. Now, the human body is said to have 9 natural orifices. Okay, now what is this orifices? These are kind of openings with which the individual interacts with the physical world. Okay, so openings in the body through which the person interacts with the world. So what are the 9? You have the eyes. So you have 2, okay, openings. Then you have ears. Again 2 openings. Then you have nose. 2 openings. Then mouth. Then how many became? 7. What are the other 2? Navel not considered. It is anus. Okay, and then you have the reproductive organ. So this total makes it 9. Okay, so 2 eyes, 2 ears, then 2 nostrils, mouth, anus, and the reproductive organ. Now, there is also supposed to be a hidden gateway, or this 10th gate, which in a way is supposed to be the entry point of divine light or spiritual wisdom. Okay, so in the sense, when we speak about this 10th gate, okay, this is not a physical orifice, in the sense that it is not something that is physical there on the body, like you have the openings of the eyes, ears, nose, mouth, but this is more of a metaphysical opening. Which basically comes from the reciting of the name.
What about our fasting sometimes releases sweat?
You mean, see, the pores of the skin are not considered as major kind of, in the sense with regards to this. Okay, there are poles, there are openings, but here they are just focusing on the main ones. Okay, now we have to see that sometimes you have heard this concept of the third eye.
Yes.
Okay, so this 10th opening is similar to that. Okay, kind of a metaphysical. So the third eye also, when we speak of, is not physically present, right? But it is something that can be achieved through intense spiritual practice. Okay, so that in the same way, this 10th gate also is a kind of a spiritual eye we can consider, which becomes the entry point for spiritual wisdom. So in that way we see that, so this happens only when the individual is in the state of super conscious. So this is a very heightened state, something very close to what we refer to as the enlightenment. Okay, so when you're in that heightened state, only then you are able to experience this 10th gate. So it is considered as a moment of spiritual awakening, which helps you to have a direct access or direct connection with God. So also it helps to kind of transcend whatever stops you or whatever is obstacles you may have in the physical world. Now we come to more practical parts of life, that is the rites of passage or other ceremonies. First we'll begin with the birth and naming ceremony. Now we must understand that in Sikhism there is no rigidly prescribed rituals for either naming or for childbirth. But we see that there are practices that are observed within the community which help to celebrate this occasion of the birth of a child. So we see that after birth, some of the Sikhs will chant first 5 verses of the Japji Sahib. As we have seen, this is the composition of which Guru? Japji Sahib, a composition of Guru Nanak. Okay? And this is done generally to bless the newborn with spiritual grace. So after that we see that they bring the child to the Gurudwara. And here this is considered to be a formal introduction to the Sikh community. So here when they come to the Gurudwara, the whole congregation joins in prayer, and in this way by praying they give thanks or gratitude to God for the gift of new life. Then you have the naming ceremony. Now here we see that for the naming ceremony, the Adi Granth or the Guru Granth Sahib is opened at random. Okay, so you just open it randomly and it is said the first letter of the first word on the left hand side. Okay, so you open the Adi Granth. So on the left hand side, the first word, the first letter of the first word, that becomes the initials of the newborn child. And therefore, the name that is chosen will have some spiritual significance, or it will reflect some values. Initials, yes. Then the name is based on some spiritual significance, some values, certain important terms that they may have based on that. So the initials is decided in this particular manner. Now you have the Granthi, okay, is somebody who in a way will initiate the prayers, will look after the opening, closing. Okay, now this is not a kind of an ordained priest or something. In a way, anybody can take part in that. So these rituals and all, in a way you don't have a particular person doing it, but this is kind of open to all. But the person who kind of presides over it is called as the Granthi, coming from the Granth, the word Granth. Next you have initiation into reading of the Adi Granth. So when the child is old enough to start learning, they initiate learning of the Gur Mukhi script. So as we have seen, this was the script that was used to write Punjabi as well as some of the Sikh scriptures. So, and there is a ceremony which is done in order to initiate this kind of process. Now, this shows the importance of the Guru Granth Sahib as the central aspect of the Sikh life, and it also introduces the child to the teachings of the Guru. And therefore, learning this script helps them to better understand the teachings and also to be able to then explain to others or take part in the ceremonies or take part in the recitations, etc. So next we have the initiation into the Khalsa. So what is the ceremony called? Last time we saw, right? When the person is initiated into the Khalsa, there is something done. No. Exactly. So we have the Pahul or the Amrit Sanskar. Now this is in a way a rite of initiation into the Khalsa, or in simple words we can say the baptism into the Khalsa. Now what is the age of beginning this? At what age can you join the Khalsa? It is said that at puberty, this is the earliest, okay, that you can be initiated into the Khalsa. Otherwise, it is opened to anyone at any stage in life. So puberty is like the minimum, but then anybody can initiate themselves into the Khalsa at any point of time in their lives. Now last time we looked at the ceremony, right? What is done during the ceremony of the Amrit Sanskar? Okay, so you have sugar water or you have Amrit. What does Amrit mean? Sacred nectar or sugar water in this case. So water and sugar, how is it stirred? Okay, so as you can see here, you have the bowl containing the sugar and the water and the sword. So stirring of water and sugar with, and then as they are doing this, they also recite prayers from the Guru Granth Sahib. Now any idea what does this nectar symbolize? Amrit, what does it symbolize? Kind of purity and spiritual fortification, a kind of a spiritual strengthening. And by drinking this, they are officially, in a way, considered as members of the Khalsa fraternity. And therefore, we realize that this spiritual fortification and purity is very much important, because they are the ones who are supposed to defend the faith, take the responsibilities of keeping the faith and also protecting the community. And the last that we shall look for today is the marriage ceremony. Okay, so it is called as Anand Karaj, which means blissful union. So just as in other religions, marriage is considered as a very sacred spiritual bond where individuals commit to one another. Now here, during the marriage ceremony, you have the circling the Adi Granth four times. So you have the Adi Granth which is placed, and the bride and the groom, they will be circling around this Adi Granth four times. And at every time, as they are circling, there will be specific hymns which are called as Lavan, which are sung during this time. So these were the hymns that were composed by Guru Ram Das, and they symbolize spiritual unity, of the couple, and as they are circling the Guru Granth, it is God is as the center of their relationship. So you have four times, each time in a way strengthening the bond that they have for one another. And then you have prayers for the well-being of the couple, to help them on this new stage or this new journey. And here we see that there is a kind of a blessing. Through this prayers, you have a kind of a blessing that will help them in this new way of life. So we still have time to look at what are the funeral rites. So when it comes to the funeral rites, we see that once again, when we look at death, for them, death is an opportunity for the soul to unite with God. So therefore, at death, their whole focus is on the eternal nature of the soul rather than the physical body. The whole focus is on the soul being united with God. So what do? Okay, for the funeral rites, you have the recite. So they recite hymns. So these hymns are chanted continuously. Now, this in a way is having a twofold purpose. One, it gives comfort for the family. On the other hand, it is celebrating the soul's journey to the divine. So by reciting the hymns for them, in a way a consolation. So just as in most of the religions we have, they'll console the family, but also at the same time, it is in a way you're happy that the soul is now on its way to unite itself with God. Then they also cremate the body. Why? Because for them, fire symbolizes purification. So before cremating, you have a prayer that is said by the whole people who are gathered over there, and by this prayer they are seeking blessings for the soul. Then once the funeral pyre, what is the funeral pyre? Those logs and that thing which is on which the body is kept. Once they put fire to that, okay, the ashes are immersed in a river. Now we see that Sikhism does not prescribe any particular river to do this, but we see that because the Ganges is closer to Punjab, okay, many of them prefer to do this, okay, in the Ganges, as it also holds religious significance to Hinduism. Okay, so we'll stop for today, and what remains actually now is only the sacred places, which I will in a way post separately. So with this we will in a way end our study of Sikhism.